Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Blender. I'm Z Garcia. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about games that put the time pressure on you. Games that either force you to pick or do something quickly, which you are likely to regret very soon, or games in which you must accomplish whatever you are trying to do in a timely manner, or the game itself is going to prevent you from winning, or possibly the other games of the table will prevent you from winning. And so hopefully this is something that you enjoy in games. I like time pressure in games. Now, as far as like having to do something quickly, speed games, that sort of thing, I personally can sort of take or leave those games. Games that have an aspect of that I can enjoy. Things like Factory Fun. I like. You do something quickly, and then you stop doing that and do something slowly. You do take your time with a part of the game. Steam Park is another game like that. But I myself love games that force you to get something accomplished before the time runs out, right? Those scenes in movies where the clock is counting down and everyone is sweating and stressed out and the music creeps up. I like that feeling in board games myself. So I'm going to be talking about a couple of games that do that, and the tension and the interest just stays at a high fever the entire time. So I hope you find something here that's new to you, something that you find interesting, and maybe something you can add to your collection to spice it up. So without further ado, let's kick it off.
Hi there, friends of the blend. This is Chris and Lindsey from Behind the Box, and today we wanted to talk to you about Millennium Blades, which is a game where it's important to make decisions as quickly as you can before the time runs out.
So, Millennium Blades is a collectible card game simulator. Now, in this game, players will take on the roles of characters in a fictional world where everybody plays a game called Millennium Blades. So each round is broken down into two halves. The first half is buying, selling, and trading cards to try and make a deck, and the second half is bringing that deck to a tournament to play against each other. Now, each deck will only have about 8 cards, so it's kind of like an abstract version of that. But the real meat of this game comes in the deck building side of it, because that is timed. You only have about 20 minutes to make the best deck you can make, so players will just be frantically buying cards, selling cards, trying to just plead with other people to make these trades with them so that they can get something finished. After 3 rounds, the game ends and you just sit back and relax for the first time in about 2 hours. It's such a great game.
Now, it's way too deep of a game for us to fully discuss with you right now. But we will say that one of the best parts about this game is the variety. There's so many different cards. So every time you play this game, it's going to look different because you'll have different cards out. And a lot of them you won't actually be familiar with. Yeah. You may not have seen them before. And so there'll be all these combos that you have to be considering that you never really would have thought about before.
I mean, if it's not clear by now, I love this game. I grew up playing card games, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic. This is everything I would want a board game version of those to be, and it's condensed to about a 2-hour experience. And it just covers everything you'd want. It has like a meta game and crazy combos, and it's just fantastic. It's a just lovely experience all around. So, do you have any games that you like that have time constraints to them? If so, leave them down below in the comments. We'd love to read those. And if you want to see more of us, then check us out at our social media. But until the next one, we'll see you soon.
Bye!
Hello friends of the blend, and welcome back to Retro Board Game Corner. I have to get through this quickly because I'm being timed. Today we're talking about games that feature a time limit in which you have to try to do something before time runs out. Here I have Block the Clock, published in 1981 by Ideal. This is a 2 to 4 player game in which you're trying to keep a clock going around a track before it hits a dead end or falls off the board. And hey, this even features a clock. Let me set this up and show you how it works. So this is what the board could potentially look like set up. You're going to take these 15 tiles and just put them down in any random location. Next, you're going to put the scoring markers on 5 for however many players you want. And then you're getting ready to put down the clock and start it. When you're ready to play, you will turn the clock on. The first player will put the clock on the track when the bell stops ringing. Now the object of the game is to keep the clock going around the track for as long as you can until the bell rings again, signifying the next player's turn. If at any time the clock hits a dead end or falls off the board, the current player will lose 1 point. When all players but one have 0 points, the game is over, and whoever has the points left wins the game. So I'll go ahead and start the clock. The bell stopped ringing, so I'll put the clock down. And I have to keep the clock moving. The bell has rung, so it's the next player's turn. The next player's turn, and now the clock is going to stop there, so whoever turn it was will lose 1 point. This game reminds me of those old plastic puzzle games where you're trying to form the picture, except it's a little bit bigger. But same concept, you're still sliding these pieces, trying to let the clock go on the track without it hitting a dead end or falling off the board. The clock comes with a variable speed control, so you want to play it faster for a more challenging game, or if you have small children, you can slow it down where the clock moves a little bit slower. But hey, I'm running out of time.
For today's Quirky Game, I'm going to be taking a look at Uluru. In this game, the players are going to be in real time trying to fulfill certain rules given to them by the game itself. Everybody is given one of these sheets in front of them with positions for their birds. And everybody gets a set of colored birds, plastic colored birds, very nice figurines, which they're going to be attempting to place on these spots here, following certain rules provided by the game itself. The game comes with a sand timer, and you are going to have that much time in order to try to follow all of the rules given to you. Everyone is doing this simultaneously. When the time is over, for every bird that followed the rule given to it, you are going to score a victory point. And you play a number of rounds, see who gets the highest score in the game. The cards come in certain levels, so you have level 1, level 2, all the way up to level 5 over here. These are the hardest ones. And you are going to decide the difficulty level you'd like to play on. You are going to shuffle up these cards, place them on this board here, and then you are off to the races. And so level 1 cards are very, very simple. All of these level 1 cards simply say, you know, the bird that matches this. So for example, if I place it right here, that means the green bird just wants to be on the board somewhere. So these are very simple to follow. Level 2 cards mean that you must place that bird on that specific spot, one of those spots, okay? And you'll have a few that are highlighted. If it ends up on one of those spots, you're good to go. You're going to get a point for that bird. Level 3 cards are specific positions across from other birds, corner to corner in this case, from the yellow bird, or across from the red bird in this case, things like that. And they continue to get harder. So level 4 are restrictions. This bird cannot be across from this other bird or next to it. And then level 5, of course, even harder than that, more complex things than that. So you get to adjust the difficulty level that way. You can also, as you can see here on the board, there are 2 lines. Normally you just need 1 line and you play out the cards on that one. But if you would like to adjust the difficulty level, say playing adults versus kids, or new players versus very experienced players, you can deal out 2 columns here, 2 lines of cards, with these being harder than these. And some players, the advanced players, are going to try to do this line. The new players are going to try to complete this line. So that's another way you can adjust the way the game goes. And it's a clever, interesting, sort of simple game to decipher. There's not a lot of sort of tricky manipulation, no dexterity element to this puzzle, but it's very thinky, and some of the later levels especially force you to really think about where everything ends up on this board here. It's a very engaging game, and it's a game that's part of a series of games that are in that family. We also find, for example, the the game Dimension, which is a game many people are familiar with, in which you are stacking spheres and following rules, much like this one. This designer has put out, as far as I'm aware, 3 games in this series, and this one here is my favorite. I think it looks the best. It's the one that has the most clever, interesting puzzles, and while it doesn't have the 3D appeal of something like Dimension, I do like the look of this, and again, it's just so engaging and rich and tactical, and the time pressure is incredible, really. The one thing I don't like about it is the sand timer itself, because it's very easy for players to forget that they are out of time unless someone is keeping an eye on this, and normally you're not. You're focused on your board, you're trying to get what you need to do accomplished. So I would recommend, if this is something you give a go, that you get just an app on your phone or something, time how long this is, and then perhaps set a countdown timer on your phone that's going to make some noise, make everybody aware that, hey, time's up, you're done placing your birds. So I really enjoy it. Uluru is a fantastic game, a little bit harder to find, a very quirky, interesting concept that some folks are going to feel ultimately too pressured by. It does have that quality where you can feel like, oh, I don't want to deal with this amount of pressure. This game is freaking me out. But if you are someone who enjoys puzzles and enjoys pressure at the same time, this is one that I think you are going to really enjoy. So, my quirky game of the episode, Uluru. Look into it. Definitely give it a go. I love it myself. Thanks for checking this out.
You ready?
Yes.
Set?
Go.
Welcome to Bickering over board games, where my wife and I talk about trends, topics, and things in board games and how we feel about them. The theme for the blender this week is the persistence of melting clocks, so the use of sand timers in board games, and so that's what we're going to be talking about. And we are going to limit ourselves to 30 seconds. This is a 30-second timer, and so I'm going to talk for 30 seconds, and when it's out, my wife is going to start. I'm almost out. So we're going to talk about Walkstar as well as
Now Boarding. And what's so cool about when we heard the theme for the blender is because we recently got both of these Tim Fowler games, and we're really excited to play them, and we've been playing them all week. And I love them both. We know that maybe using a sand timer in a game isn't a new innovation. I think Pictionary has one. But using them in these games does seem to be a little bit innovative. I know that there are a couple others, like Kitchen Rush.
Yeah, so Kitchen Rush, also the one that came to my mind immediately is Magic Maze, which almost won Spiel des Jahres, but it was beat out by King Domino. We like King Domino, but Magic Maze is a great game, and these are both really fun too. They're both fully cooperative games, and the timed element is an interesting innovation in a cooperative game. It deals with a little bit of the alpha gaming. It adds a sort of fun twist if you are bored of fully cooperative games and you want something new.
Because you really have to think before your turn, especially with Now Boarding, and we're debating maybe even adding a timed element for how much we can talk before we take our turn. Because once things get going, it goes so fast, and you'll forget to do something that you promised someone you would do just because in the countdown, and in this it's only a 15-second timer if you're playing with like 3 players, which is what we've been playing with. And we also played this live at SaltCon, which was a ton of fun.
Yeah, so that was our first time ever playing it, was at SaltCon, and it was, I think they did it at Shucks as well. And it's, with human beings, which doesn't actually differentiate it from the board game, but like in a big room where you're physically walking around, and that's fun because you are trying to coordinate with other airlines, and you're literally shouting across to them like, do you have anybody for Phoenix? That is a memory that I will.
Children were bossy.
They were very bossy.
They
but
kept
cute.
us on track.
But that is one of my favorite all-time board game convention memories.
And I actually don't know how many times we flipped this. I imagine we're getting close to the end. I really liked Walkstar. We played this a couple times with our friend Mike, and I just thought it was really clever. And also, I know I've talked about this before, but emulating jobs that I have had, I've worked in kitchens, so for some reason playing this game, I was never worked in a Chinese restaurant, nor was a member of a Chinese family. But I still feel like I'm doing that, like that same dinner rush feeling.
So, I agree. I like Now Boarding a lot, but there's something about Walkstar that I really enjoy in terms of only one person can prepare a certain ingredient, and only one person can make that dish. And I don't know, there's something fun but silly about the washing the dishes, which is how you reset the dice. It does feel like chores.
And let's make this the last one, because I'm pretty sure that we might be at 4. As a trend, I like it. I like it in cooperative games. I think it's a ton of fun. I want to play both of these more. I want to play Kitchen Rush. I loved Magic Maze when we played it. I think it adds sort of a light-hearted, which these games shouldn't be mistaken for lightweight, but it adds kind of a comedic, fun element to these otherwise kind of heavy, thinky games, which you wouldn't guess by their cute art. But yeah, I'm stoked on it.
I think more games could use timers to deal with AP and just the player that takes a really long time. I think it could speed up the game and be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, let's do a timer for you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris and this is the Teacher's Lounge. Now if you're like me, you're from Las Vegas and hockey has gotten a little more exciting. But also if you're like me, you teach a lot of games to your friends and to your family. So the Teacher's Lounge is a place where we go over recommendations for teaching games. Today we're talking about real-time, fast decisions, timed games. So I thought, why not go on about the Unlock series? This is a series of games that are escape room in a boxes, right? In a box this big, you get a deck of cards, which represent different rooms and different clues, some instructions, and it comes with an app. And the app is the timer, and you punch in the codes and everything in there. So when teaching this game, what I recommend is that you use this tutorial scenario that comes in every box. So the tutorial explains briefly what is happening here. You flip it over and it becomes the first room. In this first room, it'll show some numbers. So the number 21 card and the number 67 card come out. And so some of these things end up becoming clues that you can use along with the app. Now, you might be able to combine certain things in the game, right? So red and blue cards get to combine and they show these little puzzle piece symbols that kind of overlap. So you might be able to combine two things like a locked desk and a key. So the numbers 11 and 35 combine and you sum those up and that becomes 46. So you'll look through the remaining deck of cards for card number 46. And sure enough, look, now you have an unlocked drawer. And it says also, get rid of these cards, they're no longer part of the puzzle. So now you have this working with you. So the tutorial takes you through, right, exactly how to use each of the functions in the game, red cards, blue cards, green cards, yellow cards, and it uses the app. So even though you as the rules teacher should definitely read the very small and narrow instruction book ahead of time, I find that this tutorial is everything that you need to do in order to teach people how to play, because it helps people who learn audibly by hearing how the different things work. It works with people who like to learn tactically by doing things. In fact, oftentimes I just say, hey, red things and blue things can be combined and add up the numbers and just explain barely enough to let people solve through the tutorial scenario. And before you know it, they get the gist of the whole game. In addition to that, there is a cheat sheet with hints and extras right here on the back of the rules book explanation. So this game makes it so easy to teach. If you're looking for a game that has that real-time stress got to complete, this whole deck of escape room-ness in 1 hour, and if you go over, that's fine, you're not punished, and you want to have that cool group work environment together that's easy to teach, then definitely check out the Unlock games. The other great thing is that unlike some of the escape room games out there, once you have gone through everything, it's completely replayable. You now know all the clues and the puzzles, So take this box and give it to your neighbor, give it to your friend, give it to someone else. This is a completely replayable series that I definitely like. I enjoy it a lot. And if you like real-time games and you enjoy that time crunch feeling, you might really enjoy this series. There's other great ones out there too, but these are the ones that my family really likes. So I hope that was helpful. If games come with tutorials, try using them. Try using them in the way that players at the table can get into the fun of things quickly without too much rules explanation. My name is Chris. This is the Teacher's Lounge. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.
For today's game Under the Radar, I'm taking a look at Subterra. In this game, you and the other players are a spelunking team, and you go down into a cave, there is a mishap, and you suddenly find yourselves trapped in this cave, and you must find your way out. The game sort of feels like Pandemic meets Carcassonne. You are going to be discovering new tiles, exploring this underground cavern, and trying to find the exit, which has been shuffled into the last few tiles of the stack. You are going to be taking actions, moving, exploring, avoiding bad things that happen to you, such as these here. So you'll have cave-ins that block your way, possibly hurt you. You'll have gas, poisonous gas, that might again prevent you from exploring successfully. You have to take your time when gas might hurt you. And again, it could completely wipe you out. Tremors, which might wound you as well. You have to roll for those. Horrors, which hunt you down in the caverns. For it's not just a regular cavern, there's monsters down there as well. You have floods, which are going to make traversal a little bit trickier. And finally, the last card in the prepared deck of these is going to be Out of Time. Your flashlights run out, the creeping monsters get closer to you, and you must make a die roll at the end of every round. If you fail that die roll, you're consumed by the darkness. And so it's a game that has a tremendous amount of pressure. That pressure, of course, put onto you by the game itself. Everybody is working together. You are trying to help one another. But the time pressure, the fact that sometimes you need to double back if you hit a dead end. If someone goes down and becomes unconscious, you need to travel back to them, revive them, which takes up your entire turn, in fact. And there's even this action that allows you to press your luck. You can ask for a third action on your turn. You normally have two, but you make a die roll for that. You're exerting yourself. And if you fail that die roll, you still get your third action, but you lose one of your life points. And so when you do that, is it worth doing? Do I really need that third action? Am I willing to trade a point of my health for that? Those are great decisions in the game. It's a clever game, an engaging game. It's one that I haven't seen too many people talking about, and yet I love it. Like I said, it feels to me like an exploration Pandemic. The actions are simple. The events are straightforward, easy to understand. There's a little bit of luck. There is a great amount of tension and discovery in it, a great amount of cooperation in it. You really want to be careful. How much do you split up? Do you become two teams of two, for example, assuming there's 4 cavers? Or do you all try to stick together? Do you go your own ways and then just meet up later? These are all interesting options, and they are all, they have their positives, and they all carry possibly heavy circumstances and bad circumstances at that. So consequences. And so I really enjoy it. Subterra is a clever, engaging game. 1 through 6 players. Takes about an hour, maybe a little bit longer than that, depending on how much you're exploring. But that deck of cards and the tiles you have to burn through are always at odds with one another. If this sounds good to you, if you like games such as Pandemic, games that put on a lot of time pressure on you and force you to cooperate, but they're straightforward in their mechanisms, Subterra is going to be a great one for you. Check this one out. Don't let it go unplayed. That's it for me, Subterra, for Under the Radar.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Consider the Comments with Talking Board Games. I am joined by no one. Tommy has decided to go gallivanting someplace, somewhere, who knows doing what, abandoning me to bring you the comments in today's Blender. But I'm up for the task, so without further ado, let's talk about Magic Maze. This week on Blender, we're looking at the persistence of melting clocks, something to do with racing against the clock, making decisions quickly, and Magic Maze definitely has that in spades. It's a great game. I thoroughly enjoy it, hence the reason why I have it here with me. But in this game, Uniqlo buddies are going to be controlling collectively at the same time these different pawns that represent a barbarian and a elf and a wizard, and you're racing around this mall as you're trying to shoplift your items that you need, an axe or a wand, potion, I don't know, and then you're trying to get out within a certain amount of time. But the trick is you cannot talk, you can't point, you can't gesture. All you have is this large red pawn that you can like tap in front of someone to get their attention. That's it. And with that, let's go ahead and check out our first comment. This one is from Chris Barnard. He rated the game a 2. And he says, stressful group co-op puzzle with veneer thin theme. Chris's variant, if you slam that bloody pawn down in front of me one more time, I will hurl it out the window. Chris, those are words of wisdom. And this game will frustrate you. When you are sitting there believing you've done everything you can do to get your pieces to where they need to go, and someone keeps slamming this pawn in front of you, you're staring at the board, you're trying to figure out what are they gesturing at, what could it be that they want me to do, and then you're convinced that you've done everything right, and then you want to tell them that no, they're wrong, so you stare at them, with the meanest stink eye you can muster up. It's frustrating. But Kelson has a different view on that. Kelson rated the game a 9, and he says, a good friend said it best, an exercise in cooperative frustration, but in the best way possible. And that's where this game excels, is in that cooperative frustration. Yes, you are frustrated, but whoever that is that's slamming that red pawn in front of you, they're frustrated. And then whoever's sitting next to them is frustrated because they want to use that red pawn to slam it in front of the other person. And then whoever's sitting next to them has done everything they can, and they're just watching mass chaos as people are staring at each other, slamming this red pawn in front of each other. But when you can successfully get everyone to their spots and out of the maze, the mall, it's pretty rewarding. You'll sit back, sigh a big sigh of relief, and just laugh about the moment that Joe was slamming in front of Sue because she couldn't see that red was right in front of her and all I had to do was move 3 spaces and oh man, it's good. And then it's got this progression where you're adding tiles and adding difficulty and new special locations. Great game, supposedly made better by an expansion that I still need to acquire. But anyways, if you're looking for a game that will test you against the clock, I highly recommend Magic Maze. Go check it out. And I will do Tommy the favor of filling in for him and saying, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Dice Tower and all of its contributors. And I will say, have a great time watching the rest of Blender. We'll see ya. Bye.
And that's going to do it for us on this episode of Blender. A big thanks to all of you for tuning in. A big thanks, as always, to all of the contributors. And don't forget, if you'd like to be a contributor yourself, that's possible. Just get in touch with me and we can talk about a possible segment for you as well. And I hope to see you again in a couple of weeks for our upcoming episode. So, as I always wrap this up, a big thanks once again. And do not forget, stay a friend of the blend. I'll see you next time.